The so-called experts have been saying that this is make or break for the iPad. Tim Cook himself said that this is the biggest day for iPads since the original launch. I'm going to try to avoid just regurgitating the entire event, by the way. Plenty of those videos out there. I'm just going to give you my honest opinion here. After this announcement, I'm still uncertain about a few things, and I'm sure you probably are as well. And I ordered both the 13-inch M4 iPad Pro and a 13-inch iPad Air for a review. And I think the iPad Air might actually be the dark horse here, but first things first, that big boy iPad Pro and that new display, of course, and the new M4 chip, they look amazing, so thin right now as well. As tablets go, I'm currently super happy with my Tab S9 Ultra, but it will still be cool to see how they compare and also how the iPad Pro will fare against the M2 iPad Pro, right? So there's not just competition out there, but competition within Apple as well. My overall feeling though right now is that the features on the iPad Pro don't seem to warrant the hype and excitement that we were seeing online for so long, with all the rumors. Let me explain what I mean. Apple said that the iPad Pro is not just for pros, and that's all well and good, but to me, you have to be able to, back that statement up, and I find it really difficult to recommend the iPad Pro if you're not really going to push it. Unless you've got lots of cash to spare, of course, then go for it and buy whatever makes you happy. Because the iPad Air and frankly any of the M-chip iPads are still right now going to be performing perfectly well for most people. And when Apple said that they were going to not just push the limits of the iPad, but they were going to crush them, I seriously doubted that because we've been here before, right? I've no doubt that the new iPad, from a hardware perspective, will be incredible. That's always been the case. But the overall feel right now is that there's still something quite important missing. And it goes beyond the amazing hardware, and that's a better iPad OS. When I say better, I mean, more flexible. That really allows us to be more productive with the iPad and really make the argument for a laptop replacement. Apple themselves have said that in the past. I know they backtracked and all of a sudden is no longer your next laptop. And hey, I could be wrong, right? Maybe I'm alone in thinking that the iPad could do more. Let me know what you think as well. The design itself is nothing short of amazing, right? And very much what you could expect from Apple. Extremely thin, especially on that bigger model of 5.1 millimeters. That's insane. In fact, the 11-inch is thinner than the Tab S9 Ultra, which I've got it here, and is already very thin as well, a 5.5 mil. They're super light too, 1.28 pounds for the big boy iPad and 0.98 pounds for the, it's just great news for people who are always on the go, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it feels in the hand as well, because not that it was an issue before, but one problem I do have with the bigger iPad, and I had that with the M1 iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, after a while of using it just like a tablet, right, on the couch or whatever, I did feel like I needed to put it down or use it with a stand or a keyboard. What looks like will be hard to put down is that beautiful OLED display. I like how Apple tried to get you to get the anti-reflective version, which they're calling the nano texture glass. It reminds me very much of the tactic they used to sell the 16 gig RAM. I don't know if you remember this, the M1 iPad Pro, which came with that 16 gig RAM option, which you could only get it if you go for the 1 terabyte option. Same thing here. If you want that less reflective display, you have to spend an extra £700, $700, and get the 1 terabyte iPad Pro, even if you don't want that extra storage. Very strange tactics there. Luckily for us, there is a product in the market right now that can help reduce reflections anyway and protect your screen, and that's Paperlike, who are sponsoring today's video. Their new Paperlike have just gone on pre-order as well, and if you're using your iPad a lot for writing or drawing, the Paperlike protector gives you a nice feel on the screen as if you're writing or drawing on actual paper. Plus, it's extremely easy to clean, low to no fingerprinting on the screen as well, which is really cool. Awesome for taking lots of notes, writing and drawing on the iPad with Paperlike. Makes my handwriting, which is not that great, much more legible because the Apple Pencil doesn't slip and slide as much anymore. Paperlike's proprietary nanodots technology has this tiny micro beads as well to kind of improve the haptic feedback that you get when you're writing, to replicate that paper feel. Not to be confused with Apple's nano texture technology, because that's something different. Apple's technology is to reduce glare, but it won't give you that feedback that Paperlike does. So if you want to replicate that feel of writing or drawing on paper, Paperlike is the way to go. At the same time, nanodots from Paperlike is soft enough not to damage the tip of the pencil, which is really cool. And more importantly, it doesn't cost you $700 or £700 here in the UK. Paperlike developed this technology in Switzerland and are a huge hit with artists and designers out there. I certainly like it as well. They're so confident in this protector that they offer a 100-day satisfaction guarantee. That's mad, right? So if for any reason you're not satisfied or you mess up the application twice, they will offer you a free replacement or refund within 100 days. Just awesome customer service, right? They also sell other accessories like the drawing glove, which you might like as well. To buy yours, there's a link in the description here. And if you're watching this on a TV, just pause the video and scan the QR code up here. And thank you so much Paperlike for sponsoring this video. Going back to the display on the new iPad Pro, Apple just claimed it to be the brightest in its category, 1000 nits and 1600 peak brightness, which does sound really good. This new Ultra Retina XDR display, gotta love their marketing, right? They're gonna deliver better detail, truer blacks, and all this good stuff, right? But for me, when they say it's like you're holding your own cinema screen, they actually said that word by word, I'd argue that aspect ratio is not great for that comparison, right? Because, you know, in the cinema-like aspect ratio, you'd have black bars on top and bottom. But I am slightly biased. I've been quite used to using the Tab S9 Ultra, and that to me has a much better aspect ratio for entertainment. Now, that M4 chip does sound incredible. I was slightly shocked, to be honest, when they announced it. But when you think about it, you know, not diminishing how powerful this thing is, but it's a natural upgrade, right? It's a second generation 3nm processor with a new GPU too, lots of machine learning and neural whatever in there, right? Apple actually has made a lot of noise this time about artificial intelligence, and for me, it's like finally, you know, they're embracing AI. And they said they've been doing this for a long time, but you know, I don't know, they've tried very hard for the last few years not to mention the word AI. And as we come to expect with every event that Apple does, right, we got those huge, you know, superlative statements like 50% faster than the M2, you know, all the sorts of 3 times faster than whatever. But what impressed me about that was the power consumption specs that they said, you know, the M4 chip somehow doesn't consume as much power as the M2 chip. I want to see that. Not that the iPad Pro battery was bad, but this could be huge for people who travel a lot, or like in long flights, for example, or long trips for work. It kind of made me laugh a little bit though, when they went on to talk about how users can work on multiple apps at the same time and, you know, be efficient. Split view is useful. Stage Manager is kind of getting there in my opinion, but if multitasking is something that you really value, there's definitely, at the moment anyway, better options out there. I say at the moment because I'm hoping that WWDC will bring some new features in iPadOS there for us. Which brings me to the elephant in the room, which is the software. Like in previous years, the hardware is insane. It's always been the case, right? But we're kind of stuck with iPadOS, which, and I know not everyone will agree with this, but for me, it does need a fresh lick of paint, almost like the iPhone iOS, right? And of course, Apple will push for their own software, so Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro got lots of mentions as well. But one of the big questions that I got is, how well will it work with a MacBook Pro? You know, as an editor, you know, that's my video editing workflow. I use a MacBook Pro for these videos. And I imagine quite a few video editors out there who use Final Cut Pro will have a Mac of some sort, right? And they briefly mentioned Thunderbolt, but can I really like transfer projects between the Mac and the iPad now? That wasn't very clear. I'm sure, you know, working off of an SSD is already a major step forward. I'd love to be able to just, you know, start a project on the Mac and maybe go home and do some light editing on the iPad. That would be like, that's my dream scenario, but we'll see. Can bet that we'll be testing that as soon as it's available. And more importantly, of course, whether or not you need the M4 iPad Pro for that. When it comes to cameras on iPads or any tablets, to be honest, you know, they always lose me on cameras, not just Apple. The front-facing camera is the important one, the selfie camera. But the fact that we can scan documents and put them into a folder is like, yeah, next. I'd rather have a better file management app within the iPad. That would be amazing. But where they place the camera does make a lot of sense now. You know, to be fair, that should have been in the center since the first iPad. Now, when it comes to the star of the show for me, that's the one that I was kind of looking forward to the most. If you go back to my previous videos, you'll see that I'm saying I'm more excited about this one accessory, the Magic Keyboard. There were so many rumors about the space for the Apple Pencil that was gonna, you know, you'd be able to put the Apple Pencil in there, and even an option to use the keyboard a little bit flatter. So yeah, we're getting very minor upgrades. I mean, it's nice to see the row of function keys in there, but that's not what I was expecting. Let me know if you were disappointed with that as well, or if that's a nice upgrade for you. Now let's talk about the iPad Air for a bit. I will be talking about the Magic Keyboard and the Apple Pencil in the next video in more detail, because I have some thoughts about them and they warrant their own video, to be honest with you. But I like how they introduced the iPad Air as the on-the-go iPad, and they're not wrong. Based on the previous iPad Airs, you know, that iPad is insanely good in many ways, not just for portability. Did it really need a new chip? Probably not, but who cares, right? If you're buying a new iPad, it's nice to go for something that will last a few years. And as I've shown here in my recent long-term review of the M2 iPad Pro, that chip on the iPad Air, yeah, that will last a few years for sure. And now with that 13-inch iPad Air option, I have a feeling that this will be the best-selling iPad for students, for people who really don't care about the Pro features. In fact, I have a feeling that that's the iPad I will probably keep myself for long term, Starting at $599 for the 11-inch as well, that's a decent price point for sure, especially if you can get a student discount as well on top of that. It makes a lot of sense. Now, this event was meant to be, like I said, the make or break event for the iPad, which I thought, okay, was a bit exaggerating. After so long since the latest iPad Pro and sales clearly in decline, as of now though, the jury is still out. I hope to see you soon in just a few days for my full review. Have a good one.